Hey guys, Tim here. I am driving through rural Arkansas and I want to tell you about country folk. If you're a piano player that's playing gigs at retirement communities and you live in the city, don't be afraid of country folk. Especially, okay, if you're in the South, if you're in the West, see, these are, Arkansas is arguably the West, arguably, but we can get that conversation later. Don't be afraid of the country folk. If you're a city boy like me, if you were raised in the city, like I was raised in Boston, Massachusetts, I loved riding the subway as a kid. And even to this day, this is going to sound weird, but even to this day, I love the smell of car exhaust. I don't know why, it just reminds me of like hustle and bustle, and I kind of liked that when I was a kid. When I moved to the South, into Memphis, Tennessee, when I was 10 years old, it took a lot of getting used to. Saying y'all felt funny to me, but eventually I started doing it. It's just, I guess, you assimilate to where you are. Well, I did at least. But it took me a long time to get used to the idea of driving out to the country. I don't know why. It's probably just, honestly, some prejudice that I still had left over from when I was living in Boston. There's this mentality if you live in a big city, like, this is it, like, this is living, this is how it should be. And anybody else, like, they're slow, or they're country bumpkins. But you know what? It's not like that, at least in my experience. If you're playing at retirement communities, number one, you're bringing value to them. So they're appreciative. So you're doing a good thing. You're doing them a favor, and they're appreciative. They're maybe even more appreciative because not everybody wants to drive out to the country. It seems like it's a long drive. It seems like it's something that you don't want to do. In Memphis, Tennessee, it's not a radial city. Well, I guess it is, but it's not like a circle city. You have downtown Memphis on the river, and then it radiates out, so it is a radial city, but it's not a circle city. Unless you count West Memphis as Memphis, but it's really not. There's this mentality that the further that you get away out into the suburbs, like, the more people don't want to drive out. Now, I don't know if that's the same in your city. Maybe it is. But the further away that you get from the city, people don't want to drive there. Well, if you're playing piano at retirement communities, then that laziness, I guess you could say, is your unique business proposition. You can be the piano player that drives out. You can be the piano player that makes the trip. Oh, it's just an hour? Instead of, oh, it's an hour? Never mind. So what I'm doing, I'm driving through rural Arkansas. I'm actually driving about 2.5 hours this morning, and it's beautiful weather. It's going to be fun. It's going to allow me to route to a couple other gigs. It's a longer trip than I'd usually drive, but this is an activities director that I've known for a long time, and I was able to do this gig at 10 a.m., so I left at 7:30-ish in the morning. But I like it. Like, it's fun. The weather's beautiful. I get to make videos. Things are good. Talking about the country folks, if you are, especially in the South, this might be true everywhere. This might be true, say, if you live in New York City, you want to drive out to somewhere in the country. You might want to do a tour or something. There's country folks everywhere. Like, the way that the United States is set up, you have major metropolitan areas, and then you have everything in between. And people live in the in-between. There are retirement communities in the in-between. There are health and rehabs in the in-between. This is possible because a lot of these places are funded by Medicare and Medicaid, and that's just a Social Security program that everybody pays into in the United States. People also just generally need care, especially in health and rehabs. Like, the health in America is not in good shape overall. So there are people that need a lot of extra care, and health and rehab facilities are where they get this extra care a lot of the time. So there's opportunity. When you drive out to hang out with the country folks to entertain them, in my experience, it's good to be humble. It's good to be humble because if you're from the city, remember, there's a lot of different kinds of smarts. There's book smarts, there's street smarts, and the streets are different in the city and in the country. But it's still street smarts. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be out on the streets in these places, but what I mean is that there is wisdom in the way that the wisdom can be found anywhere that you are. So developing an ear and an eye for wisdom is a good thing. And country folks can be really very nice and charming. That's one thing that I noticed. I'm going to shout out Fulton, Tennessee / Fulton, Kentucky. It's a twin city. And I drove up there and I got to play at like a town square festival through a activities director that booked me. Shout out to Sherry, Smiles on Seniors. She booked me, and I was able to see just the charm and beauty of what these people had in this town had created together as far as community. And it was really very nice. They gave me free hot dogs, I entertained them, and I got to speak not only with the elderly, but also with the younger folk too. And I was so impressed with the level of care in that community that I saw. It was really wonderful. I was charmed. So if you're from the city and you're playing in the country, or if you're afraid to play in the country, be humble, bring value, listen, seek wisdom, and know how to identify wisdom. And most of all, have fun. That's it for me for today, y'all. Hope that you enjoyed. Like, follow, subscribe, do all that. If you want to learn more, I have an ebook. Just send me a message.